everybody. I know it's been freaking long. Procrastination is a mother, and I am back with new content! Rejoice. Okay, starting up, we're opening with the Midivalians, like I said we were, because that won the good old poll on Instagram. Because I asked, like, from what sort of choices would you like the knights? Would you like these deep sea pirates? Would you like the Little Mermaid story thing? Blah 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 blah. And the knights worked out. And I'm starting out with the archers right now because I actually broke it down in three different groups. There's the archers, there's the guards, and then there's the actual knights. And I actually did take the time to give like specific faces to each one, and they do have names. I just didn't write them down here because one, I'm still traumatized by the same face syndrome in the show, and two, it just makes it easier to keep from having duplicates running around. So I got this, and I wanted to have this kind of theme of where Odelhard is more closely tied to the staff, so to speak, than his own family because, he doesn't actually want to be like royalty, too much responsibilities and intimidation and all of that. So that's why his outfit actually has less blue in it and it's kind of like hidden underneath his chainmail because symbolism. And the archers, guards, and knights especially don't. And I wanted to, flesh them out a little bit. They're not gonna be like super major characters or anything, and they're not most likely not gonna like even have their names mentioned. But for poops and giggles, I decided to do it because it's cute. It's cute. I like it when like background characters have more character than you expect. Like that's why I respect Osamu Tezuka and his ability to draw like a bajillion different faces in one comic. It's great. And here we are with the brave, wonderful knights. I wanted to make them distinguished. And for the inspiration, I was trying to keep it 14th century. Now, it was either 14th century or 1400s. I tripped myself up, but I'm pretty sure it's 14th century. If not, oh well, I'm just going to roll with it. Which was like basically the middle century of the mid-century of the Middle Ages. Because it's like smack dab in the middle. You have the 13th century, the 14th century, and then the 15th century. So 14th was like perfect. And each group, as you can see, have like different tasks. The archers are like off on the walls, the guards like protecting the door, and the knights get the pleasure of like facing down major threats right here. And I was originally gonna have a person hiding behind them, but I frick it because I wanted to finish these pictures. Darn it! But I think they turned out good. They turned out really well. Like I said, each and every one of them have a name. I might have to fix it because it was like English and not German. But and here we are with Leonora or Merwin or now Schwanhild because it's actually German and not Welsh or whatever it was. I think it was English or Thurian, something like that, but I changed that. And she went through so many designs, but I'll get into that later. For her character, I imagine her being less bratty and more composed because she's basically the heir in anything but name because, Odell is out gallivanting with adventures and all that, and somebody has to hold the fort down when the old man kicks the bucket. So I imagine her as more composed, more authoritative, and actually listen, and like people actually listen to her. And she plays a lute in her spare time. Like I also imagine her having this kind of connection with her mother, who's never mentioned at all, had tragic off-screen itis, died that way, but she like plays the lute in her spare time because it's like something that connects her to her mother who also played the lute and was supposed to be really good at it, and is blatantly favoritive of Paphos over her own blood brother, as you can see in the bottom corner. Um, Yeah, she has a much closer relationship for like plot related reasons. But like, because I imagine being the first place that he truly settles after he breaks free of Technopolis, which has also been renamed, he gets closer with the people at Kingsland because it's like the first civilization that he really settles in outside. So he makes ties, and it reflects in the show. Yeah. And now the part with her freaking dress, I had the split heraldry as you just saw, but unfortunately that's a marriage dress and she's absolutely not married. And then I was just like really playing around with the fur and all of that. Do I want this? Do I want that? I don't know. And it was just a headache trying to get whatever together. Like the hymns and all of this. Is this actually 14th century? Because the internet. Let me tell you about search engines. I hate it when people say the Google search stuff because search engines suck, and the results are either limited or misleading. Even on DuckDuckGo, Pinterest is the bane of my existence. I hate it so much, and I couldn't tell if this was truly 14th century style or not. I kept bouncing back and forth, and at some point I was just like, okay, this is it, this is it. But I do know that I didn't want the blue color scheme to be the main one because it's not on the heraldry at all. It's yellow, white, and red, so I wanted to reflect that. And kind of have it as a minimum color, like to signify royalty, because you know, blue back in the day, specific blues was like a size of royalty. I mean, there's royal blue for crying out loud. And I did want to include the actual heraldry to show her loyalty to her kingdom and how serious she actually takes her position versus Odelhard, who was like, nah, fam. So I included the lions into the like pattern on it, and I was much more confident with this. So you got like all the classic colors. And here she is, all done, all elegant, all regal. I really like how she came out. And I think it's more accurate personally, I think, to the 14th century, and it captures her new character where she's like composed, she knows to say, she's more mature, leaning on the queenly side, and like emulating her mother, I feel, who I really ought to post the picture of because I did make a design for her. I love the design of her crown, like little ring thing in the middle of her head. Now I have no idea of the head covering is accurate or not because that's like supposed to be for married women. But then noble women also had it. I don't know, but she's not married as of yet. And now we got some of the other characters, starting with Sir Gareth, or really Sir Waldhar at this point. And he has been established as like the head of the knights, and I'm cheating by using his old design with the lion pauldrons and all of that because I really liked it. But I actually did use real inspiration, and I think I might have used a ceremonial outfit by mistake. But either way, he still looks cool. And also we have Isabel, or Isabella, who has been renamed to Isentrude, who is his niece, who is a noble lady. And what I like about her fashion is that it's more subtle. Like I use the original background characters who obviously had no names that were like copies, but judging by her design, she has like a more subtler look. But since she's like the daughter of a knight, I thought I'd do something different with that. And then we have Jeanette right there, who has been renamed to Gretchen, and her brother, who I've established as her brother Archibald, who was not really knight material, I have renamed him to Fridolin. And they are like in a weird nexus at this moment. They're like some kind of nobles, but they're also court entertainers. And Gretchen is like Schwanhild's lady in waiting. But yeah, it was such a pain trying to figure out how to get their costumes accurate because don't know if it's like 14th century or not. Everything keeps zigzagging, and I was playing around with the colors to see what looks good because I didn't want everyone to just walk around in blue like in the original show because they had so many different dyes in medieval times to the point of where they had like laws saying, okay, peasants can't wear this, nobles can wear this, blah 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 blah, because basically anybody could wear those colors if they had the means to do so. So like sumptuary laws, I think it was called. And yeah, so the Jeanette and Archibald are twins. At least in this current iteration, they're twins. Who knows how long that's gonna last? But going back to Issa real quick, she is like a lady and the daughter of a knight, like the lead knight. So I imagine that she would be pretty well off because I think Sir Gareth also has like a position like Marquise, maybe. I haven't established that right now. Nobility ranks are really puzzling, but basically she has money, but she doesn't like showing it off. She tries to be a more subtle approach, while Gretchen is the opposite. Like her family has history of where they're like the opposite of where they had wealth and then something happened to it, and now they're like trying to keep up appearances. At least that's the kind of vibe I'm getting. And I'm playing around with Sir Waldhar's colors, trying not to like go overboard with the blue again. But anyway, Gretchen and Fridolin, you can see with purple, but purple actually has like a cursed superstition around it in parts of Midivalia, and their family is like tied to it. But I tried to make it subtle, like it's not like bold purple, I like maybe a faded purple. And Gretchen does not have the fancy underdress like Isentru has. Because what is really cool about medieval clothing like that is that it will look subtle at first, but then you lift the first dress and there's like an underdress, there's like an even cooler dress. Like I remember there was a story about a princess who like was I think people were making fun of her or whatever, some noble woman, and like, oh, it's so simple. And then she lifted up her top dress, and there was like all these jewels and stuff on a second dress underneath, which is honestly a baller power play move, if I may say so myself. So that's kind of what I use for both Svanhild and Isentrud. Meanwhile, Gretchen can't do that because she's like, her family is like barely making it nobility and money wise. Like something happened to their money a long time ago. They had like this huge position, and then all of a sudden it just went. And there's like rumors of what happened to it, and nobody exactly knows how or why. And if the family knows, they're certainly not selling it, or maybe they themselves forgot. Now, what's really frustrating about their designs was again the headdress. Like technically neither one, like Isatru should not have one, and I'm debating of whether Gretchen should have one, because again it was supposed to be for married women, but apparently noble women already also had it to like show off their wealth. And in Isatru's case, it would be like a thin veil with some like gold attachments to like show off her wealth and how she's technically not married. So, and then Gretchen, I think I'm trying to debate whether I want her married or not, because not everybody has to be single, for frick's sake. I might make her married, but I also saw that at a certain point, women just straight up had to wear veils, whether they were married or not. I think it's all over the place. But anyway, the reason why I chose that kind of direction for her character is because with her background character model in the original show, you know, the orange haired girl, she actually had like a tiara and like a bracelet, I think, and I think they all had bracelets. So it was like friendship bracelets, but she also had like a necklace. So it was like, oh, she's like more showy. And originally, I think I had her as the more wealthier person, but I decided to do a switcheroo for the sake of an entertaining story. I think it was a silver tiara, judging by the lighting in some instances, but I decided to keep that with her like headpiece and her earrings. Like you can kind of see like a silver piece in her wimple veil thing right there. And I think I made the purple a little too obvious. It was supposed to be like a faded purple to show like their own history of their family, like a little bit of pride still in there, but at the same time they don't want to incur like the superstitions of everybody else. But Yeah, and I also decided to give freckles because like there's no facial blemishes at all on the characters in the show, so I decided to give that to Isentrude, the more rich girl, instead of you like having like Gretchen, the poorer one with freckles, as if that's a poor person thing. And I really like how they came out. I love her little tambourine. And I freaking changed her dress again because I just could not settle with it. I changed the colors. I added some more fancier trim based off of this dress right here. And that's it. I'm done with you, Gretchen. I'm done. And I just realized that I was talking way more about Gretchen than Eastentrude. But Eastentrude, she like I said, she's not really into all that well. She thinks it's a drag, and it's like she don't get me wrong, she knows her position in life. She knows that she's blessed, and she's definitely grateful for it. But there's certain tropes and traits of the upper class and nobility that she finds what's the word stupid, like some stupid fashion trends and pretentious social etiquette. It's like she could do without some of it, but she's still like grateful. She's not like full on Odelhard of where it's like screw being a prince. I want to go rough out in the woods. No, it's like no, I'll take my fancy clothes and my warm bed and all of that. Just please don't drag me to like stupid social events, like 50 different social events a day. And that's pretty much her character. She's the more practical, sensible person, and she also bakes. I have no idea if a noble lady in the 14th century will be allowed to do that, but that's her thing, and she's really good at it. And she may own a bakery business on the side. Like she's like a businesswoman on the side, in addition to like being like the niece of a marquise. So she's got there. She's good. She's good. She's the more practical minded as such. And while Gretchen is kind of like the more like being a normal woman is awesome. I just want to like hang around with my friends and all of that. It's like so they kind of got that interesting back and forth with Schwanhild, who's kind of like sort of the mediator of maybe. I was kind of a repeat with Gretchen again, but going to Fridolin, he has the loot, and the reason why I went with like a more entertainer perspective because Archibald, let's be real here, is no knight material. I can think of like one time he picked up the sword in the entire show, and he was like actually legit pissed, and it was like the negatives episode of where everybody like was angry. I'm surprised, and that's like the only time I saw him pick up a sword. Most of the time, he was like hiding in around a corner in a chest somewhere, and kind of carried over. I actually had like an interesting dynamic with Jeanette. Like for people on my Discord from years ago, probably remember they had this tradition of where like in their family, because their family is actually really old. But in their tradition, it's like the stronger sibling would look after the weaker one, and in this case, Jeanette was the stronger one, and Fridolin was the weaker one. But Jeanette is not really all about that. She's strong as hell. Like, don't get me wrong. She's like she could easily commit war crimes. That's like a running joke I think we had on the Discord. Like I think I had a line where like, "Oh, we can't send Jeanette because that's committing war crimes. We're trying to defeat the Baron, not her, not kill him." Something like that. I might tune it down for the sake of this remake, but but yeah, she's supposed to be like super strong, and she's not into that. She just wants to hang with the girls and be a lady and with all of that. And Fridolin is like trying to give him under thumb because I think it was also like if you want to like marry him, you have to like fight Jeanette as per family tradition, like defend the weaker sibling, and both of them kind of not vibing it all too well. I mean, still loves her brother, and wants to protect him, but it's like get with the times, everybody. But I also might have Fridolin not only as like a core entertainer, but I think like possibly some kind of like position of like a messenger or something, because I know in the show in one scene he was like reading off complaints of the kingdom to the king in a meeting. It was Fortusac in disguise, but still, so he has some kind of position outside of being a knight and a scaredy cat. And it was also kind of like inspired by that one episode of where the Baron took over the court and made him do stuff to entertain, which was kind of messed up. But that kind of plays into it. So like, yeah, they're kind of like a jack of all trades, the both of them. and I got all this stuff going on, and may or may not pop up in the story because things keep changing and it's really frustrating. But yeah. And then there's Sir Waldhar himself, aka Sir Gareth. Now, again, I'm not sure of where this is going to fit in grand scheme of things because of the way that nobility ranks work and all of that. I think I'm going to make him a Marquis. It's kind of under Duke, so he's not like above Ferryman, which is going to be Ferryman, aka the Black Baron. But he does own like a bit of territory. He is obviously very much well respected. Hence the huge ceremonial garb that I accidentally put on. It was supposed to be practical. I was using his old redesign and some other stuff, but this is the result. I still like it. Huge sword that's not going to fit in that scabbard, I just realized, but it looks cool. It looks awesome. And his character is obviously more gritty, and he's not as hot-headed as he is in the show, which is very unbecoming of somebody of his lofty position. Obviously, got a big old scar because scars are cool, and he's he's rough when he first met Paphos, aka Jean. He was like very suspicious of this stranger, but he did kind of warm up to him, and he took him in to sort of say, not like adopted him or anything, but like he's the opposite of what he was on the show, where he was like immediately abrasive and like kind of a jerk to him throughout. He's still like authoritative, like he's a commander, he's like military, but he's not like a hard ass. Um, I also had a running joke with him of where he's very socially awkward, and he kind of like bonds with Paphos over that. Like, this is one woman he likes, but he always ends up saying something that like either confuses her or unintentionally insults her because he's so bad at socializing. And I actually have that in a redesign somewhere. And poor Eccentrud is like, no, Uncle, you can't say that. He's like, because he has no filter. He's also really blunt. Like, he does not believe in like covering stuff up with flowery pearls or honeyed words. He like gives it to you straight. Like, he's like, oh, he's like, oh, niece, I see you shave the hair off your lip, and she's like, oh. So that's a funny trait that I have for him. And also, the reason why his niece is living with him is that his brother passed away, like in a battle, I think, or maybe a dragon attack. I haven't decided. And the mom may or may not be around, like sister-in-law, sister. I don't know. I haven't figured all that out yet, but like that's why. And then we have the king himself. I imagine Kendrick or Leofric. Leofric in this iteration is less nonsense. He's like more no nonsense. He's more serious. He's more refined. He's not as candid. Like, I don't want to say goofy. Okay, goofy. Like the last iteration I had of him, which was kind of leaning closer to the original Super 4 show, but no, in this time he's more serious. He's someone that's actually meant to be respected because he's the king, and he's an old king at that. Don't worry about the spoilers right there, but there, that's my old version of Kendrick right there that I stole for colors. I wanted a more royal scheme, and I was bouncing back and forth between yellow and blue, and I just decided, you know what, it's royal blue. It'll be tied to him specifically. I made it much more bolder and stand out because it just made more sense that way. So here he is with all his refinement, all his gold trim, little pearly details and rubies and all of that. Like I said, I wanted him to display dignity and strength even in his old age. And he is old, not ancient, but I thought it'd be cute if he had like liver spots because I actually like it when characters have like details in their skin like that. He has wrinkles under his eyes, he's got some liver spots, his hair is turning yellow, well, whitish. I forgot to add the white streaks. But and his eyes are actually the whites of his eyes are actually a duller yellow, but he still has that bright spark in it, showing like, hey, he still got some intelligence, and he's still worthy of respect, no matter how old he is. A nice blinged out crown as well, because I love my shinies, and yeah, he has a lot to worry about with his son. And here we go with one of my favorite characters, Fortusac, mostly because he's freaking weird and all over the place. He's like a wild card. Like, it all starts with his name, like Fortusac. I have no idea where that name came from. Like, I tried looking it up, like maybe it's a reference to something like cul-de-sac, of how it literally means the end or the rear of a bag, but it's actually specifically referring to a type of street you see in a neighborhood. I thought maybe it had something to do with that, but nope. And then I looked it up literally, and the closest I could find in French is that it literally means fork bag. Fourche, fourche, which is like fork, as in a fork in the road, and then sack, which meant bag. And that's it. So I guess they just chucked those names together, and and I was like, no, his name's gonna be Farouk, because I was looking up names. See, he always had like a Middle Eastern vibe to me for some reason. I don't know why. He just has like a Middle Eastern vibe, and I kind of channeled that a little bit in his older redesigns, where he had like the sun and he had like those flowing robes and all of that, and his color scheme reminded me about the like desert for some reason. So I was leaning into that, and it was as I was looking up for inspiration on like individual magic creatures like fairies, witches, and yes, including wizards. I tried to tie each of them into like a real world aspect, like I did with everything else. Like Medievalia is medieval Germany. The pirates are like Mediterranean for the most part. Maybe sides of the Caribbean. That's another mess of stuff. The aliens were like South American. The Technopolians are like Greco-Roman as of now, and like the magic world is like all over the place. And wizards were tied to the Maghreb, however you pronounce that, and the Czech Republic. I can't remember why for the Czech Republic, but I know the Maghreb was like based off of like the wizard from Aladdin. And I also had ties to like the original like Playmobil figures from the Magic line, because I'm gonna base stuff also heavily on like the actual Playmobil toy line for like the sake of a timeline, because trying to merge all of these different eras together on my own is a pain in the neck, and it's hurting me spiritually. So I'm going to use the actual Playmobil toy timeline, and there's this incredibly helpful site called PlaymoDBDatabase.org, and it's just great. But anyway, back to Fortunac. He's based off of the Maghreb, Morocco, in particular, because the Maghreb is actually like a collection of nations, and he's based off of Morocco. At least he's supposed to, like Morocco Moorish, and I kind of did that with the like embroidery on his sleeves that I like a lot, and his turban, obviously, and his like sash kind of thing. I feared that the colors that I used were kind of looking too similar, so I actually tied in a dash of like turquoise, because I think like blue is like a notable color in Middle Eastern countries. So I had that in there, and I just also like his character. He was giving me Jafar vibes with his tall stick, and the fact that when we first meet him, he's like this kind of advisor in the king's ear, and we all know how that role goes. So I lean pretty heavily into that, be it consciously or unconsciously, and I tied into that. Now, what's interesting about Farouk's character compared to Forshasek, he's not a particularly a bad guy, at least in the beginning as of now. Like, he enjoys his position as like the advisor slash side hand of the king, and he recognizes all the prestige that goes with, because like he's not a goody two shoes per se with his job, but he does appreciate his job. He's more like narcissistic, and like that character trait carried over from the original. So he's definitely narcissistic and an ego trip, and he likes his position because he gets to lord over people and they can't really say much. And he genuinely does a good job. Again, it's not necessarily out of a kindness of his heart. It's just so he could show everybody how smart and awesome he is. And like I said, and he's also not an idiot, or where like he's not like greedy per se. Like he doesn't want to like jeopardize his position. Like isn't true. He knows he's got it good, and he doesn't want to risk it all for like being stupid unless he thought he could get away with it possibly. But um, and I also showed that in his design. Like he clearly thinks very highly of himself from like the way he carries himself, and the excessive silver jewelry, his bright colors, and jewels and all that. Of course, his absolutely fancy scepter, which I just had to drape with silver, and he thinks very highly of himself. So he has a bit more confidence compared to like Fortusak, who I think in some episode, like I think one episode at least, he was kind of like a Debbie Downer, but like here he's like, yeah, I'm awesome, I'm great, and I also really like his eyes. Like I think I might like him. It was maybe unfortunate for him. Like because I also want to like indicate that he's at the same time not human, because he is a wizard, he is a magical being, and therefore not mortal. He's most likely much older than he actually is, and I wanted to show that with his eyes. Like his like the may not notice it, but the whites of his eyes are actually like pure white, and of course he's got that interesting stuff going on with his iris to like indicate that hey, he is not mortal. I also tried to sprinkle a little bit of that with Etoile in my most recent picture of her. Like instead of the black part of the eye being black, it's like a different color. But anyway, I actually really like Farouk's design, and by the way, his name is supposed to be it's supposed to mean like one who knows right from wrong, which kind of like ties into like the fork thing of his original name, which was a happy accident, which I keep running into. I just keep running into happy accidents of where stuff I just make up just works. So if something coincidentally looks good, just know it was probably not 100% intentional. Also of note are his like bracelet hand things, which are supposed to be rings, because I was messing around with the idea of how rings would work on like clicky hands because there's no fingers. Originally, I was gonna do it like a kind of like a rhinestone thing, like the original stickers on the toys, or where you just slap it on your hand and just hope and pray it doesn't pop off, which could be like a poor person version. I also considered like straight up piercings for like the more hardcore, like maybe the certain pirates, of where they just straight up pierce it and it's kind of works like an earring, or where there's like a back and all that. Seems kind of impractical and kind of permanent and serious. And I figured someone like Farouk would not like that, so I instead went for like a more stretchy bracelet thing. This was actually inspired by a picture by Art of Mirage that I saw on Instagram a long time ago. So I'm just gonna say thank you, Mira, for that, because so it's like just like slipping on his hand, and if like he stretches his hand and his fingers and all of that, then it would like adhere to it and he wouldn't have to worry about it slipping off and all that. And I actually prefer that. And cool thing is you could like put as many jewels or whatever you want on it, which I'm sure he would enjoy because gotta show off how important he is. And yeah, he was enjoying his position pretty well until Paphos came and made things complicated, but that's another story. It probably explains why he keeps zigzagging between the Baron and the King. By the way, the Baron is not a Baron anymore because that's another video. And last but far from least is Sir Ulf, who is now Sir Raganmun. I'm gonna say Raganmun, who was like the personal bodyguard of the king, and maybe like a second advisor who is probably not all on board with this Farouk guy because he's not making himself look good. You know, what I mean, dude, you look suspect. But yeah, Sir Ulf, I am so sorry that I never gave him like a proper redesign. It took me this long to get to it. Um, and here he is now. So I tried to make it more distinct in his own right. Like instead of like the lighter yellows or whatever, I figure since he's kind of like the right hand man of the king, or at least the left hand man, like as adverse to Farouk, he has like a darker blue to like indicate his more closer relationship with the king and how they're kind of on the same wavelength. And also he's not just the bodyguard of Leofric, but he's like actually an old friend. So like they actually go way back to like when they were like doing shenanigans as children. So he's like also really trustworthy, and that's why he was made his bodyguard because they go so far back. And his outfit is kind of based on the Teutonic Knights, I think. Maybe I don't know if I'm gonna make a full on order of that or if I'm just gonna use it for his outfit. Like I said, it was really hard trying to find 14th century stuff because the internet search engines kept dragging me around. But I got it now. And as far as his not pauldrons, gauntlets, I never realized how interesting they were, or at least I kind of did. Like when I did his first redesign years back, or were they just like metal boxing gloves essentially? I have no idea if there's any historical ties to it, or if the creators were just messing around, which fair enough. But I kept them because it was unique and it's interesting, and I just made them removable, like the toy which I have, where you could just like he like grips onto it basically and just like uses them like weights on his hand. Like I assume he just like grips it on the inside and just like starts molly-whopping people with it like a fist, except he doesn't actually. Well, no, he is making a fist. I don't know. I kept them because I thought they would look cool, and it's kind of like got this boxer vibe to it. Okay, so apparently these are very most likely mitten gauntlets, also known as Henson in German, and they were a thing, but it was more like for the 15th or the 16th century. But another thing there is called like combat gauntlets, but those seem to be more Renaissance fair-ish, but they look a lot closer to that. So good on you, writers. And of course, he has a sword because everybody is strapped in mid ultimate. Well, Sicherberg at least. Sicherberg. Oh my gosh. All these German names. I know I'm botching it up. If you're German, you can read the text. You know how it is. But yeah, so Ragenman is a closer advisor to the king. Yeah, he's his best friend, and he has stories to tell. And so yeah, these are I didn't intend for this video to go long, which always happens, but these are the characters that I have so far with Sicherberg at least. Um, the other territory, I think I called Waldhafen or Schwarzwaldhafen, which is like Ferriman's territory, who is, by the way, is no longer a baron. He is a duke. That's going to be another thing. But this is Sicherberg. These are like the characters that popped up in the background the most, and I decided to flesh them out and give them identities that may uh tie into other stuff later. But yeah, I just wanted to give y'all something before the other video.